I'd also like to commemorate Marky Brown, a sound Republican from the Carlton area. I'd like to start off today by thanking the bands. Coatbridge Republican Flute Band, Volunteer Martin Docherty Republican Flute Band, Volunteer Sean McElvenna Republican Flute Band. A couple of bands who weren't here today, but the members were here. Volunteer Billy Reid Republican Flute Band. I'd also like to thank the James Conley First Republican Flute Band for helping with the show. And last but not least, one of the organisers of the day's parade, the Irish Republican Martyrs from Carlton. I'd also like to thank all the Carlton coming who took part today, Central Scotland, Carlton, Plains, Gad, Gaelston, Anderson, Coatbridge, Wishaw, Lambert, Lycoming. This march, as I said, today is to highlight anti-Irish racism in Scotland. It's a campaign that's been spearheaded by Republicans in Scotland. Republicans have took up the mantle for the Irish community in Scotland, and through Cars Nairn we've been highlighting this campaign over the last 3 or 4 years. Jim Slavin started highlighting this campaign when he was in charge of Cars Nairn, and Cars Nairn is now recognised as the voice of the Irish people in Scotland through this campaign. This campaign isn't just about highlighting racism against Republicans, it's about highlighting racism against the whole Irish community. And that's not just from loyalists or from racists. That's from institutions like councils. And throughout Scotland, anywhere the Irish community face anti-Irish racism, Cars Nairn will be highlighting that. I'm going to introduce you today to our main speaker. He's a member of Sinn Féin in Dublin. He works from Leinster House with the TDs. I'd like you to give a big welcome to Darry Dillon.
Today. The last time I remember I marched, it was a hunger strike commemoration 2 years ago, and it lashed rain every step of the way, so things must be good. The future's so bright, we gotta wear shades. I just want to echo what Franny was saying about Marky Brown and dedicate a few words I have to say today to Marky Brown, who I know is held in very high regard in Carlton and further afield, and by his friends and comrades in Ireland. So maybe just remember his friends and family and comrades here today. And also to acknowledge Martin Docherty's band here today. I knew Martin, and I know the band from coming over to Dublin, and you served his memory very, very, very well. And you're all welcome in Dublin, like you're on the May time. I just want to maybe mention those 2 things. And also I just want to thank Cardinal Heron for inviting me here today to speak at such a great rally. I'm humbled and honoured to be here today to speak to you. I think the work you do, the work each of you do in Scotland, paves the way for Irish freedom. Our steps towards Irish freedom are taken shoulder to shoulder with people in Scotland. Whatever freedom we achieve it because of the work you do here. I must applaud you for taking such a brave and gallant positions and leaderships and campaigns down through the years. And of course, one of the great leaders of Irish freedom is from Scotland. Up the road in Edinburgh, James Connolly heard it from there. And James Connolly was one of the greatest leaders of Irish freedom. James Connolly is known the world over for what he's done for Irish freedom. And you've a lot to be proud of for the James Connolly. And James Connolly, in his activity in 1916, lit the flame for Irish freedom that still burns very, very, very strongly today. I think it's worth noting that the 1916 rising that James Connolly took part in was the first blow against British imperialism anywhere in the world in the 20th century. So when Britain claimed at the time that the sun never set on the British Empire, the flame was being lit in Dublin that sent a message worldwide: British imperialism, your sun is setting. And James Connolly went back to Dublin from Edinburgh to be part of that rising. That's your legacy, and a very, very proud legacy it is. And you've every right to be proud and celebrate his memory. It's also interesting, when you think of the rising of 1916 on Easter Monday, that had a huge global impact the world over. Massive. To the extent that in the Basque Country, they have chosen as their day for national independence as Easter Monday. That is held the world over as the beacon of freedom for people who are oppressed or occupied by foreign forces. And of course, we continue the work of James Connolly today, because his work is still yet to be completed. And we are as determined, with this generation of Republicans, we are as determined now as we were in 1916, in 1969, and in 1981. We are determined to ensure that we live to see Irish unity free from British rule in our generation. And I think the politics of Irish freedom, the banner of Irish freedom that you so proudly hold aloft in your activities, is more popular now in Ireland than it has been for generations. We only have to see the recent election results, north and south, to see the politics of republicanism is more popular now than since 1918. And that's because of the work you people do. People in Scotland have never shied away from supporting the struggle for Irish freedom. You were there from the start. When the people of Ireland needed support, ye stood up and said, we will give it to you. And that support remains strong, intact and unified today. And I think today bears that out. And I think when we talk about racism and anti-Irish racism is nothing new. We only have to flick through the pages of British history to put anti-Irish racism in context. Because the British imperialists have to portray Irish people as subhuman, or as one of them wrote, as white eggs. We are portrayed as some sort of subspecies, not by chance, not by coincidence, not because of a butt of a joke. They did it because they needed to justify the occupation of Ireland, as they have done to other peoples around the world. In Africa, in Asia, in the Arab world, the first thing British imperialists did was to portray the local people as subhuman. But then, of course, you can carry out wholesale massacres and atrocities of them. And that's the core of anti-Irish racism. And of course, down through the years, the images may have changed, but the core message is always the same. From when the plantation started, right through to the Tan War, right through to partition, right through to the denial of civil rights, right through to the denial of housing and votes for Catholics, and even in more recent times, to portray in Ireland as two warring communities, as people who couldn't manage themselves. In fact, we became the white man's burden in Britain. They had to send British troops over to Ireland because, of course, in their heads, that we couldn't rule ourselves. And unfortunately, the images of that anti-Irish racism doesn't remain in the preserve of the British ruling class. It permeates down, it comes through the media, it becomes popularised, and it allows people to carry out racist attacks on our homes, in our streets, on our football terraces. And of course, the powers that be here in Scotland would have us believe that it's not racism, it's sectarianism. Two sides of the same coin, Catholic and Protestant, Celtic and Rangers. Well, friends, we know that is not true. We need to call it what it is. It is anti-Irish racism. And racism is racism. And it's wrong, wrong, wrong. Be it anti-Irish racism, anti-black racism, anti-Arab or anti-Asian, it is wrong. And I applaud you for standing up and tackling anti-Irish racism. I know it's not easy. Sometimes in years gone by, perhaps we kept the heads down, but not anymore. And I applaud Cardinal Heron for taking today's initiative and coming out here and showing that the Irish community is loud and proud. And of course, with the popularisation of republicanism in Ireland, when you look at the recent elections, in the 6 counties, without a doubt, Sinn Féin is the voice of Irish freedom, because we don't settle for second best. We will not tip our hats or forelocks to unionism. We will not tip our forelocks to British occupation. We will stand up for what is right and for what is just. When we look at the election results in the 26 counties, what a brilliant showing. 14 TDs, 3 senators. And now it's Sinn Féin is the real opposition to the Don Bean slash and burn government of Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil. We are seen as a bulwark against cuts, against exploitation and against attacks on working families. But with those gains comes a responsibility. We're not for sitting back on our laurels and thinking how great we are and celebrating our victories. With those gains comes a responsibility. And friends, that responsibility is very clear. We want to build an Ireland that is free, that is just, and at peace with itself. And an Ireland that you can be proud of. And also with that responsibility of recent gains, and the gains which we must build on, we need to work with you to tackle anti-Irish racism. And that's why today's event, today's march is so important, to allow Sinn Féin to come over here and support your campaign 100% and to support Cardinal Heron in the great work they do. And I come here and condemn in the strongest possible terms attacks on the Irish community, be they football managers, be they ordinary workers, or families, or people supporting teams, or people going home at night. Those attacks must stop. Those attacks have no home in the Scotland that we want for people. And people should have nothing to fear from an anti-racist campaign. Because the Scotland we want is a Scotland where all cultures and peoples can share and celebrate. And there's nothing wrong with that. The only people who have something to fear from that are the bigots. But unfortunately, when we do tackle anti-Irish racism, the response from the state and civic society has been very, very poor, if not unacceptable. And I would call on all anti-racist organisations, be they sporting or civic or political, to join with us today and to condemn anti-Irish racism and to share platforms with us to make sure that racism in this society is reduced to the history books. Because there's no role in modern Scotland. There's no role in modern Ireland. It's not part of the vision that we want of our society. So friends, in conclusion, I'll be going home tonight to Ireland with a message that is strong, that is clear, that the Irish communities in Scotland are proud, confident and unified in the promotion of Irish freedom and in tackling anti-Irish racism. And you have our absolute, utmost support in the challenges that lie ahead. Sinn Féin will support you in whatever possible way we can, both nationally and locally. So friends, remember, we will not let you down. The microphone might, but I won't let you down. Section 31. support each other like we've always done. Chucky our law.